Welcome everyone. Rachel, we're happy to have you here.
What's up?
I was super excited to learn your interest both with comedy and marketing, which, as you know, at Content Marketing Conference is a rare thing, but a beautiful thing. Exactly. I love that motion, actually. That was
It's like bringing it all together.
visual hand
Yes,
stuff
baby.
going on there.
That's what we're doing today, isn't it?
It is indeed. So you're going to be part of our comedy keynote series this afternoon.
Yep.
And then you're running a workshop tomorrow, which we'll get to. But I have to say, your interest in that is extraordinarily rare. We had very few people that applied for what you actually want to do. Go figure. And I think that's because your facial expressions
I'm niching.
are
You know what I'm
amazing.
saying? I'm getting really in there.
But tell us what your interests are with comedy. I know you do a little stand-up as well, and marketing, and how you put those together.
Yeah, so I have a background in theater. I went to theater school, as you do when you really want to build, a lucrative career. You study the arts. My parents are so proud. And after theater school, I ended up going to law school, and I had a long and winding journey, and I kind of left the theater side of myself behind. And over the years, I built up this digital marketing agency. I do brand design and web design, and it was like one day, it's like I met an old lover on the street, kind of coming up with this idea of using comedy as a way of exploring marketing and business content. Because I like to say, it's being, anything under the sun, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything is being said within the marketing space. So how do you add something new to the conversation? It's not always what you're saying, but as Andrew Tarvin says, how you're saying it. So I came up with this concept of using sketch comedy, stand-up comedy as a vehicle for exploring marketing topics so that I could create content for my audience that felt fun to consume, that wasn't like, oh, here's another blog about 3 ways to improve your SEO. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that, and as I said, I felt like I met an old lover. He came back into my life, and now I've been able to bring that theater stuff into my marketing and business work, so it's really cool.
How much of that is training and science really behind knowing what's funny and what's not, or how to approach a topic idea and build a twist into it that makes people smile, or tell a story in a way that builds drama and has a punch to it? A lot of training?
I think there are certain
help.
comics that do kind of have they've done a lot of training, they've done a lot of formulas, they've kind of created, that's what really improv is. Yeah. You learn the building blocks and then you can go out and play. And I'll be honest with you, in my case, it really is more art than science. I go in and I'm writing my scripts, I'm coming from it actually from a marketing perspective first. So I'm always looking for what are the questions I'm getting over and over again? What are the things that frustrate me about my industry? I start there, and then I use that, and the comedy, there's always a funny situation that can come out of it. So it really is, I have to be honest with you, it is way more art than science in my case. The science part, if you will, is really knowing my industry enough to have something to contribute to the conversation, and then the fun part is bringing the comedy into that. Does that make sense?
It does indeed. Tell us about your workshop. You're going to go a little deeper with people. You've got your fabulous sort of TED Talk style presentation tonight, and you already have fans that have signed up and registered with you tomorrow, but go a little bit deep with what you're going to talk about tomorrow in your workshop.
So my workshop, I'm talking about infusing your website and copywriting with humor. And it's really tailored to people who don't consider themselves funny, or for brands that aren't self-described as funny, because we could all name a million examples of hilarious brands with their wacky ads, and I think that's where people get discouraged or overwhelmed with the idea of using humor in their brand and their copy and their content, is they're like, well, I'm not a comedian, I'm not a jokester, and my brand doesn't want to show up as a non-serious brand. We want our customers to take us seriously. So in the workshop, I'm going to be going into ways to sprinkle humor into your copy, even into your design, without being a funny, wacky brand. How do you do that? It's not as difficult as you might think. And how does that actually turn into conversions? How does that turn into more meaningful relationships with your clients and customers? Because it does, So yeah.
Do you find yourself in a tough situation trying to teach a client to be funny versus just making them funny and creating content for them that has some snap, crackle, and pop in it, as I like to say?
Well, I'll give you a little spoiler alert here, Byron, with the workshop tomorrow. is that when it comes to bringing humor into brands and content, it's not about necessarily being laugh out loud, ha ha, funny, like ba-dum-bum, shh. It's really all about adding lightness. And as Andrew Tarvin said earlier today, he talked about, disrupting and adding something different to the conversation. So actually, when I'm able to kind of lower my clients' defensives around what does funny look like, it just means adding a lightness to the conversation and to your copy and being less formal, because that's really where marketing is going. It's just not buttoned up business suit formal anymore. People want a human connection. When I approach it that way, actually, and we're looking for moments of truth and observations that they can make about their industry and the questions they get all the time, most people have a bigger funny bone than they actually think they do going into it. So, yeah.
How hard is it to harvest the ideas that they could turn into? In other words, can that be done in a few hours, in a few days, in weeks? And is it a lot of Socratic techniques to say, okay, let's go over this again? You mean there are no problems in your industry, or there's no truth to be told in your company? There's no gossip that you can latch me onto here? There's no pain?
I have.
How do you do it?
I have some methods. I have a little bit of a formula. I call it reverse niching, and I'm going to talk about that today in my comedy keynote. But it's all about, to get clear about what your brand's values are. Oftentimes you ask somebody like, who do you serve or what are you about? And they give you some really formal mission statement that they, like 3 paragraphs of text, or they give you a big generic bland answer. People struggle with that. So I help them back into it through, okay, who will you absolutely positively never work with? Who is the worst fit for you? If I were to say, give me a list of the things that your brand would never do or that you just do not stand for, that stuff flows. People love to complain, right? It's like people's favorite hobby is to, complain about stuff. So you get them complaining and then you reverse engineer that into here are my brand values and here's how I want to show up. And the things that they've complained about, though, often are almost always, can turn into a funny moment. And you ask, the difference between getting a client to kind of discover their own funny versus me just making them funny or writing jokes for them. I don't want to do the latter. The latter is not in service to them, because then it's just like a commodity. It's like, here are 5 jokes you can use, and once they're told. Whereas if I help them discover the humor in every situation, then this is a skill that they can use again and again, and that's what I prefer to do.
Fantastic. Tell us about your agency and your consultancy and what you're doing on that frontier.
Yeah, so I run RKA Inc., which is brand design, marketing strategy, web design. We typically go into a company that is growing and has outgrown their look and feel, has outgrown their copy, their message, and we will do a whole overhaul from the strategy to the design and the look and the feel, to the copy, to the web design and development. So that's our sweet spot. And it's really fun. We work with a lot of thought leaders, we work with a lot of tech startups, and typically our clients come to us because they want something that goes against the grain. They want to create an epic, unforgettable brand, and so that's really what we specialize in.
And how many of those clients are interested in having a dose of humor and comedy marketing in their play?
A little bit. I mean, I will be honest, not every client is like, make me funny, RKA, but they are definitely, when they interact with my content, so this is the power of content marketing, when they see my content, because almost all of my clients come through the door and they already know me and they already know kind of my brand philosophy, they are attracted to how I show up in the world and how I'm creating content. I've got a comedy marketing show that I do. And so they're attracted to that, and that's what brings them in, is they may not self-identify as a funny brand or even wanting to be overtly funny, but they want to work with someone that thinks outside of the box. They want to work with a company that is defying the norm and going against the grain and disrupting things, and so they're attracted to that.
Rachel, it's been great having you here.
A great pleasure.
Thanks for your interest in humor, in comedy, and in trying to rid the world of all this bad, boring content with every client you have and every person that will learn from you today.
Doing it.
Right
Love
on.
it. Thanks,
you, Byron. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.